All right, everyone. The Washington Post's political analysis here released a story today, and it was very, very interesting because it's echoing what I've said for several months now with regards to the House races, which is that Trump benefits if the Republicans lose the House. If the Republicans at the end of the night haven't lost the Senate, it's a fine night for them. The House almost doesn't matter unless they get completely wiped out by a huge margin. Like if Chunky Yogurt is correct, and the Democrats end up by 40 fucking seats in the House, which isn't going to happen, by the way. If that were to happen, let's say they win every single toss-up, they completely knock the Republicans out, that's a blue wave. The fact that Nancy Pelosi will become highly visible within the Democratic Party and set the stage for a showdown with the left-wingers there, the dozens of House members that don't want her anymore within the Democratic Party, and they'll almost certainly lose, or they'll get someone who's very far left in as the head of the party, alienate centrist voters and lose anyway. The fact that winning the House will cripple the Democrats because they'll obstruct themselves more than they will even Donald Trump really won't be any consolation if there's a blue wave. If my prediction is true, and we're straddling the line in the House between Republicans narrowly losing it, 5-10 seats net, that is what the Democrats would be ahead by, or narrowly retaining it. The Democrats have lost by default. If they regain the House, Nancy Pelosi becomes Speaker. Nancy Pelosi is the best punching bag that money can't buy for Donald Trump. He hopes that he's already been campaigning against her anyway. The Republicans have been running ads for several months. Hey, do you want this person, this fucking maniac, a crazy lady to run the House of Representatives majority group? Well, then you should vote Republican. And even a lot of Democrats don't want her to head the House of Representatives. But she has all the money, she has the corporate backers, and she has at least a slim majority of the party behind her. She'll probably end up Speaker of the House if that happens. Trump cruises to re-election in 2020 regardless of who the Democrats nominate. It would be suicidal for the Democrats at this point. The Democrats should have focused on the Senate and abandoned the House. They should have tried to take the Senate. It would have been so much more effective a strategy to pour resources into the Senate where they could potentially stop a SCOTUS nominee or something like that with a simple majority. Like, again, what happens if Ginsburg keels over tomorrow? Whoops, well, I guess Trump gets another SCOTUS nominee. This is not going to be pretty. Oh, it'll be like Kavanaugh on steroids, and once again the Democrats will probably snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Instead, they might be left with the symbolic power of controlling a House that can't do anything other than obstruct in a topical manner. That gives Trump ammunition, among other things. And then Nancy Pelosi, which is about the most malevolent symbol within modern politics. Be great for Trump. Now, the Republicans will sit there and say, well, Trump focused on immigration too much. He lost us the midterms. And Trump will say, oh, we retained the Senate. We did fine there. It's your problem. You didn't run on the economy because you didn't want to give me credit. Now look, we get a windfall anyway. Nancy Pelosi heads the DNC. It's not Hillary Clinton that's no longer in politics. It's someone that's actually in politics at the time. It's a more legitimate target. Who are the Democrats going to nominate? By the way, let me tell you this. Having people like Perez and Pelosi in charge of significant elements of the Democratic Party symbolizes to me and signals to me that the Democrats intend to jerry-rig another boring old neoliberal in as their candidate in 2020. That is, they're going to go with a Biden or a Hillary Clinton or a Maxine Waters-style character. They're going to be probably older. They're going to be corrupt, a lot of baggage that's easily exploited in the internet era. The problem is that a lot of the older, more experienced politicians have a lot of baggage. In order to get over that, you need someone who's either, they've led a stellar career, how many people like that are in Washington, regardless of party, not many, or someone like Trump that doesn't care. His baggage is all topical. It's like Worldwide Wrestling and Stern Universe baggage. He can brush it off as, hey, I wasn't in politics. I was just a gaudy businessman, basically, so fuck you. All these other people, though, they pretended to be very astute, very above board, very, tuxedos again, tuxedos and nightgowns and never drink, never do anything wrong. No corruption here, sweep it under the rug using their so-called journalistic friends. They have problems in the internet era. That's why the older candidates are getting knocked off. That's why the Trump populists keep winning in the Republican primaries. In 2020, if Trump wins re-election, he'll have many more sympathizers in the House and Senate, I can guarantee you. The old guard is filtering out. They can't compete anymore. The Democrats will be run by the old guard. So here's the Washington Post, legacy media #1. It's right up there with New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and CNN for lying to its audience. And they're saying what, a few intelligent people have been saying all along. Well, hello, Johnny come lately. It took you 2 fucking months to show up. Back in the darkest hour for the GOP, when it looked like they were going to get killed in the Senate too. I think that's when I began saying, hey, they would hate losing the Senate, but if they lose the House by anything other than a massive proportion, it really doesn't affect anything. The House has been obstructing Trump, by the way, anyway, when the WAPO article there, if you read through that, about halfway down, it's like, well, it would give Trump an excuse for his broken promises, and because the Washington Post obviously is not a fan of Trump. Some of those promises have been stalled out and obstructed not by the Democrats, but by Republicans. Republicans in the House have failed to comprehensively fund the wall. Republicans in the House have failed to bring up another slew of tax cuts as a campaign issue. Republicans within the House have largely dragged their heels on doing anything with regards to Silicon Valley. A few senators have tried. They don't even put these people under oath when they're talking. Like Jack goes there, Zuckerberg goes there. They're not under oath. Meanwhile, Diamond and Silk, they were under oath, and then they got mistreated by some Democrats. And Ted Cruz, oddly enough, being the only fucking person in the room to defend him. Marco Rubio sitting there pretending he doesn't know who Alex Jones is. A person with more name recognition than fucking Marco Rubio himself. Oh, I have no clue what that is. Basically, I don't need to call security. I'm a big boy, with his lifts, and he's like 5'4" or something. It's very funny. Yes, Marco, you are going to go toe-to-toe with the former football captain while being a manlet. Very good strategy. I'm sure that there wouldn't be any problem. And then, of course, the deplatforming happens literally the next day. Coincidental. This is very funny. If you can't tell, I'm highly caffeinated and I'm in a good mood. And midterms are approaching, and after that, like the day after, you start waiting until Thanksgiving. A few weeks later, you're stuffing yourself with the good shit. We're talking cranberry sauce, pickled beets, fucking roasted potatoes. I'm hoping to have roasted beets too. Like, I really love beets. I'm the only one around me that's a really big beet fan. I'll eat them pickled. I'll eat them roasted. I'll eat the small ones raw in salad. I think they're great. And turkey cooked the right way. Mostly turkey is dry and unappetizing to me, like sandwich meat turkey, fuck you, basically. Turkey dogs taste like cardboard. If it's cooked right in its own gravies, you stuff it, lots of herbs, roasted potatoes cooked alongside and under, yeah, it's really good. And you get the buttery potatoes, hoping for maybe a cabbage dish, stuffed cabbages. Like, I want to go all out this year. I'm going to, other people have to cook it, but I'll buy the food, basically. You don't want me to cook it unless you want a ruined Thanksgiving, trust me. But the Washington Post, it's very funny to see them. Again, they're late to the party, but they finally showed up. Now, everyone's ready to leave, but they're like, hey, is there any spiked punch left? Here, let me guzzle this down before the midterms. Trust me, I'm going to want a hangover the next day to take my mind off the misery of the fact that the Republicans at least have kept the Senate. At the very least, they've retained it. They probably grow their lead by a few seats. Again, my expectation they end with 54 in the Senate. I think they knock out McCaskill. There's a good possibility they gain Florida with the Gillum scandal trickling down to the Senate race. And Joe Donnelly's now quite embattled. I would say even odds for Arizona, even odds for, knocking it out of the park in Nevada. And they retain the open seat in Tennessee. They retain Texas, starting the night with 50. So they're doing fairly well. The House is a different story. We've got a 50-50 shot of either party controlling it. Too many toss-ups with too little polling to tell. It's funny, by the way, if you look at the New York Times, the tale that they tell with regards to who starts with safer leaning seats, totally different from RCP. They're saying that the Democrats are like 40 seats ahead to start. That's not true. In RCP, it's about 10. That's more reasonable, based again on the fact that there's too little polling in many of these races. But the New York Times thinks if a month ago the Democrat was up by 3 points, it starts out in the Democratic Party's hands. I don't think that way. I think that's improper. They're making the same mistakes they made in 2016. I'm telling you, if the polling has a systemic bias of even 2 points in favor of the Democrats or the Republicans, all estimates are off. And it could be like when I start the stream, the first thing to watch will be New Jersey. What proportion is Menendez winning by? Or is he winning at all? Is it like a dead even race? We could begin to see the polling bias basically first. Their polling ends at 6 o'clock. That's when the last ballots are cast. By the time I'm live streaming and the guests are off, we'll be getting preliminary results, at the very least exit polls. Some early results will come in from some counties, some voting districts. we'll begin to get some picture of what's happening. Now, I think Florida's the other one to watch, both the gubernatorial and Senate races. I'm going to have like a million tabs open. I wish I could hook up a second computer here, hook it in, and just have like 5 different electoral maps live updating. I think that would strain the bandwidth if I'm also live streaming. Unfortunately, I'm out here in pardon the pun, but the sticks. I'm not in a big city where you get like, you pay an extra 10 a month, you get super fast internet. Here it's all mediocre. And that's literally, I contacted Comcast. I'm like, hey, if I pay more, can I get a higher speed? No, we just offer one package to everyone. Everyone has the same. It's like communism, basically, in the state of Vermont. That's about all. Peace out.